Hello, Rantbox TV watchers. Hello, 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 hello. I'm back again, and I'm joined by Delphine, who's going to talk to me about, well, her experience as someone of color who works in the film industry. How are you doing, Delphine?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. I'm loving the background that you have there. Really
Yeah.
like great color coordination. But yeah, let's dive right in. You've basically done a lot of work for visual effects for various different shows and movies, and you've had an experience which is quite unique. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah. So, as this discussion being about a person of color is very is very interesting because my my being a white of complexion makes that also aspect very unique. Um, and it's already hard enough to get into films when you are from a background. I mean, I come from very modest background. We'll say modest, but kind of ghetto. And in the ghetto, you don't think like you're gonna get anywhere else than after AA levels. That would be already an achievement. Um, and then so it's already hard enough to fit in um, anywhere when you're biracial, but with a white skin. So that's very unique. Uh, Getting into films with that, the fact that people would see me as white, but not really, and make you feel like, ooh, what are you? What are you? I love this question. Um,
You get that a
uh,
lot?
oh yeah, not here in England is so much better, but in France, yes, I did. And if you would tell them what you are, they would say, not really. Oh, so you know better than me? Okay. It's very shocking.
Sure.
I'm sure people are more aware now. I've been living in England for 6 years. Um, but my take on it is that because I am both, and I am kind of like, I have this like strong um, observer position in a way. Uh, it's been very interesting to see what was background of people, and mostly because I'm biracial Caribbean. uh, I was very surprised on my first job where there were so many people that was from the Caribbean, and
Mhm.
I was very surprised
Okay.
because, as I mentioned to you before, uh, my generation, I'm 39 since last week, my generation of people, they usually, like, my family is a nurse or cook. Um, and I come into this big visual effects company where we were doing the films for Jean-Pierre Jeunet. He's done Amélie and all these things. So it was quite big. And then I see this guy and I'm like, what? Wait, where you from? And he was like, Martinique. I was like, shit, me too. And another one, Martinique, another one, Martinique. And we were like 4 or 5 kind of people. It was really good. I've never seen that ever in another company or even in England. I've never seen like 5 people looking, um, like they would come from Caribbean or any other background, like working to, like, being there. It was just like very how you would say, that would stand out as well, because it's really hard to get in there. It's really hard to get the training. At the time it was really hard. Now you just can go to uni, and they offer this opportunity also to other people. Let's talk about another minority. There were maybe 2 women that were artists. So
Can I ask you, do you believe that there is a need for people to realize how important diversity is in film still? Or do you think that everyone gets it now? It's more about doing something about it?
I feel like it would be amazing to have diversity on screen as much as off screen, And on screen, people are talking about representation. I don't think it's important unless you're a kid. So um, taking an example like Jingle Jangle, it's great to have that for kids. They need to be represented. When you're 8, I was watching the Cosby Show and I was like, okay, that's my only reference. Okay, there was Fresh Prince as well when I grew older, but I didn't have any other films where I could see the rest of my family being there, and I would think I was black for so long. I really thought I was black for like, at least like biracial looking, like for like until I was a teenager where I was like shit, really fucking white. But I think it's important to have representation, but I don't think it should be a matter in films. It shouldn't matter your skin color. You should just have diversity, but not for the sake of it. You shouldn't even see color. You should see people. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if we have Disney putting quotas and putting Black people or Asian people for their quotas, like, where are the Arabic then? It's just, I see the Beauty and the Beast actually shocked me because there was a lot of representation, but there was no Arabic people. So I'm like, okay, so what are we trying to say? What are we trying to do? Like, because this is, you want to represent, but I don't see representation. I just see quotas, you know? So I feel like diversity is important. Representation is important until you're 10. And I think diversity is something that is important so that you don't have always the same people represented. My friend is a Black actor and he's trying to fight against the always the same casting calls that are either you're a thug or you're, a guard at an entrance club or something like that, always the same. Yes, diversity is very important, but not, people should just be more aware of, like, this is not a group, this is a person, and how can we, just like give more opportunities to people also who are looking different than white. In England, it's a problem in films. Like, if you don't look as a woman, because I'm acting, I'm training in acting as well. If you don't look like an English rose, you're kind of fucked. And if you are Black, I'm sure you have a lot of work if you have a perfect English accent. But again, I have not seen a lot of progression of just people being there because they're a great actor and they just killed that in that audition, and the character is now suddenly Black. It doesn't need to be a massive background and, ooh, I'm coming from the ghetto or something like that. It doesn't need to be justified.
Would you say, as I said before, that people are aware of the continual discussion about diversity and now it's about how we action it? Do you think that's the real kind of challenge that's presented now?
I think people are aware and they are actioning it. And I've not seen it in film yet because it's a long time to make a film. And this whole talk has only been happening since this year and this summer. But I've seen it also moved a little bit more, like, I'm going to mention Bly Manor, The Haunting of Bly Manor. I don't know if you saw that.
I haven't seen it yet, no.
It was just great to see that one of the main character, not main character, but one of the key character was a Black woman, and she was just Black, and that's fine. And she was something else. She was something more, not just the Black person. And she was the love interest that made everything shift. And I'm like, oh wow, a Black woman being a love interest. And not because she's Black, that she was just beautiful and intelligent, and that's what a love interest is, something that is exciting, someone that's like intelligent, enticing, blah blah. She was all those things, but not because she was Black. She was
Sure.
just this thing as a person.
Yeah, it is quite refreshing to see a character who happens to be Black, but they're not used as a vehicle to talk about a particular racial issue. Not that
Thank you.
those
That's what I've been trying to say the whole time.
not that those issues shouldn't be talked about, but if that's the only reason why you hire these people, then it can do something, I think, to the audience that's used to seeing them only in one way.
Yeah.
You've done quite a bit of academia in this particular field. Is there something that you could relate from the academia that people may find interesting?
Um, um, well, you mean because I graduated in film, minorities in film, right? Yeah, and we studied a lot of African American history first, and then in film, so that we had a background. It was great. Well, that's the thing. I feel like Black directors, it's it's frustrating to see that women were a minority as well. So it's been hard enough for women to, have an outbreak as directors or camera operators. I mean, I cannot even see that. But there are some, and they're fighting for it. And so Black people have been on the same, standing row, queuing row of trying to get there. And it's been a journey, and now we're only having like finally a lot more diversities in stories for people, and we Hollywood, I guess, because it's all coming, they have made films what they are now. So generally it's always coming from America first, and they have such a Black community over there. It's a good ground for them to start doing things and moving things around. In England, oh my God, this is still, there's a big struggle. I mean, there's no French prince in England, right? So, but you can see, well, yeah, obviously the evolution is great. You see more and more actors, but you see more directors over the past kind of like 5 years. It's quite recent. And you see a massive shift, thanks, I think, to Netflix, because they're like, oh, we're going to try and differentiate, I can say that word, differentiate, well, try to be different than Hollywood. So let's just produce dear white people. What was that? Amazing, like what?
There could be perhaps, we talked about representation in terms of what people are seeing, in terms of actors, the roles that they're playing, but maybe behind the scenes, particularly like say in the writer's room, if you have many scripts that are being churned out by people who are not of color, who are not Black, but they happen to have people who are of color and who are Black, there can be stuff which is lost in translation there. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about for some time. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like this is great to educate people like that, and through these TV shows. And Kenya Barris is doing a great job. Amazing, amazing work. Amazing. I think through humor, and I feel like this is necessary because this is quite a heavy subject. We're not talking about, for my position or the American position, we're not talking about immigration as in simple terms. We're talking about a slavery ancestry. I mean, your grandparents were talking about their grandparents being enslaved. It's, it's a wound that is taking so long to mend. So I'm lost. What was the question again?
It's okay. We were talking about how the representation on screen is one thing, but those who are in charge of creating those characters, those ideas, those notions, and where these people
Yeah.
work and what they dream about, it's often by people who are not necessarily Black, and so therefore
Yeah.
they're actually the custodians of those Black characters. And I was wanting to know more what you felt about the writers' room, essentially.
Oh, yeah. So that's also a problem because, again, I'm sorry to say, but sorry to mention it, but because you asked the question, that's when I realized women in writing are very limited as well. They're not being given opportunities. So you're taking the Black people. Now, what do you have? A white man, white man. So there's, if you want to talk about culture and how can you write for essentially you can write for a lot of characters, but you need to be knowledgeable of the background of absolutely everyone. You read Game of Thrones and he can write about being Daenerys. I feel like it's a woman talking when I read it. He's a man. So you don't need really to be that person. As a writer, writers, they really should understand human psychology and culture, so they should get interested. Now, are they interested and productions are pushing off? Maybe. Other people should be given opportunities for sure. But I feel like because Netflix opened the world to this kind of series like Kenya Barris doing Black as Fuck or Dear White People, now the world understand more about what it feels like to be Black without making it a martyr kind of theme,
Sure. There's something to be said, just to wind it back as to what you were saying before, that yeah, if you're a writer and you're not Black, it doesn't mean you can't write those characters. But if there is a whole culture, if we're going to go through, say, the Hollywood system, where they're very easy go-to stereotypes, often I've seen these stereotypes on screen, I'm sure you have as well. And so to push away from those stereotypes will require someone or a group of people to really want to see the benefit of doing that beyond a quota, beyond what the results would be. So that would be it. But yeah, you've had quite a lot of experience on many different productions. I mean, could you list a few of them so people are aware of what you've actually done?
I've worked on the Hunger Games. I've worked on the Jungle Book. I had a great time working on the Smurfs on set. It was my first American production. It was fun. I've worked on Fantastic Beasts 2. I've worked on Jingle Jangle. I've worked on Lovecraft Country. If we want to talk about new shows that are really showing Black people under a different light, oh my God, Lovecraft Country, Jingle Jangle was great.
Well, let's do that. Tell me something about, say, Lovecraft Country, which you think you're happy to celebrate.
Well, that's the same thing as Jingle Jangle. Finally, I'm seeing someone that, I can, as a diversity, I like to see, of course I'm white. It's always difficult to say that and to have people feel for me. But I do see myself as a Black person as much as I see myself as a white person. So it's nice to see, people whom I understand the struggle as well, because they talk about racism a lot because it's set in the 40s or something. So it's great to see them not just about race and stuff. It's like totally fantasy. And also, if you like fantasy, well, it's about time finally that, people are not just Blade.
Sure.
Go. That was great.
Excellent. Well, this has been great. I have to say, I've been binging Deep Space Nine recently. And as you know, Jake Sisko, the main character, who's played by Avery Brooks, is
so
a
wait,
Black
I don't know what Deep Space Nine is.
Oh, Star Trek. It's a Star Trek
right,
show.
Yeah.
It's set on the space station. So they're not just like flying through space all the time, but he's kind of the head of their community. And so a lot of the problems that comes his way are normally to do with having to mediate between different types of people, or rather different cultures within the same culture on that actual space station. But yeah, that's been great watching him go through all sorts of obstacles and solving them and stuff. So seeing someone that looks like him having that kind of power is really interesting.
Right.
But yeah, this has been great. Is there, there's a new project that I'm sure that you're working on. I got some kind of Facebook request to check out a project. I know it's something that you're doing and it escapes me. Maybe you can tell the audience and make up for my bad hosting.
Yeah, so Rise is a project that our director of our acting studio is also a film director. And she's producing and directing. She's wrote as well sci-fi dystopian about people being controlled to be the perfect citizen. And to make people aware that, you know, we're at times where emotions are regarded as something evil, or we shouldn't do, or it's not, you know, you're not a good citizen if you're actually emotional. So this is all about that, and all controlled by AI. So your face is being read, and if it's not the good citizen, as in composed and you know, no high down emotions, then you are being put in a facility to be rehabilitated. And in this film, there's actually just a lot of a diversity cast, and she's not making it about it. It just happens that those people are interesting to be on screen and to do the acting role that they were given, and that's it. And that's how you want films to actually operate, you know. So this cast is going to be great because there's well, I'm cast, and there's Native American, we have a Black guy, we have European people who are strangely enough in England, Europeans are not represented on screen. So when we talk about diversity as people of color, imagine as a person of color that is European, oh my God, forget it. On TV, in films, in English films, and in TV series, you can name one person, but it's not a regular thing. Accents are not a regular thing in England. They are very much liked in America, but they're not as much. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Indeed. So cool. I'll put a link to it inside the
you.
description box. So if people do want to check out what that film is about, when's it coming out, or is it still like not too
We
early?
shot a piece of concept and we're about to start the visual effects on it. We're actually still looking for emotion. I mean, we have a few people lined up, but we're looking for a motion graphic designer. So if anyone hears that and is interested, please get in contact with me, obviously. But we're going to shoot next year, and it's going to be yeah, like a close facility with people actually, you know, locked up in there and having to purge out emotions, or having to be forced to be a compliant citizen for the Republic.
Okay, sounds so good. I was intending to wrap up, but I had like this idea that I want to put to you here of, say, complicated misanthropic lead Black characters in film. When I say that, think of like, say, most of the roles that Michael Douglas has played, or any of the lead protagonists that you get in, say, a Christopher Nolan movie. I mean, we've had Tenet's just really recently come out, and apparently the lead character for that doesn't really have that much going on with him, so he doesn't really count. But do you feel that there's a reason behind this, or is it just something that I've imagined?
No. And I thought that because I just recently watched The Boys, Did you watch The Boys?
Oh yeah,
Right,
The Boys is
we talked
yeah.
about it before.
Yeah.
And I liked A-Train's portrayal. I was like, oh well, finally a black dude that is an ass. And cocky kind of ass, like, because some male characters will have that energy, some male people have that energy regardless of their race and background. So it's been hard to see how people are like, um always seeing like a black person being persecuted. Are you kidding me? In 2020? Come on. Um, or always the black guy.
It's important to clarify that as well.
Yeah, but so it's either a
It's important to
thug.
clarify that as well, because A-Train is a character, if you've seen The Boys or not seen it, very quickly, his portrayal is fairly layered, considering he's not like
Very
he's
layered.
not like a massive role.
No.
But we do know that there's various different things that are pushing him. His recognition through his abilities, his branding, his awareness of his product, all these different things come into play. So he's not just your typical, I can't really call him a baddie, but he's not just your typical, say,
No, he's
antagonist.
not. No, he's not.
Yeah.
That's great. But typical baddies can be played. Like, I mean, Sam Jackson does it. He does the bad guy. He does the bad guy in Jungle. He does the black person that
He's
is
the
in
house
love
servant.
with his masa.
Yeah.
So you've seen some of them, but again, it's always in the context or supervillain or but that A-Train character was just just a person that was a tiny bit cocky, a tiny bit too much of an asshole, but very layered, and he had justification over his actions, and that's what you want to see in any characters being portrayed, regardless of their race.
Yeah. I think
I think that's a great um, that's a great thing, and I'm hoping that it's going to open the door for other characters like that for anyone. And yes, same for Asian people. They're not being portrayed always as that kind of like character, and you'd want that because why not?
Yeah, there's so many different things that can be said about it. But for me, I think it comes from the sense of the Byronic hero normally being cast as Caucasian. The Byronic hero, as in, say, the main character in Memento, or the main character in American Psycho, or even, as I said, Michael Douglas's entire filmography. It seems to be that we haven't yet had a very complicated character who is making their own mess and then therefore has to solve it. Whenever they are in a complex situation, it's come from an exterior force, and it's often a go-to if you're looking at, say, a struggle movie, as you were saying before, a persecution movie. But to have a character who is say, like Frankenstein, someone who's created their own mess and has to try and figure that out, as well as battling their own selves. I can't think of many examples.
Yeah.
And that's quite a shame, because it suggests that you can't necessarily have someone who looks like that and has that experience when it comes to society and systemic racism have other things to battle through. So
Yeah, that's a problem because again, when we don't want to talk about race too much on screen because we want to give the opportunity for anyone, but at the same time, oh my God, if you put just that type of character and you cast a black person, either audience going to be angry or producers are going to be like, oh no, we're going to be looked as racist. Why? That was just a regular person just being like that. It's a
yeah, I
problem.
mean that would be again, it comes back to the idea of who's in the writing room. If you've got people that they're worried that they'll be coming across as racist, well then who are these people? If they're not the people that are being on screen, then perhaps that's where the real problem is. Those who
Yeah,
gesticulate, generate the ideas. Sorry, so
but that's why
yeah,
all these
intriguing.
shows made by black people are just opening the doors for those kind of characters. So it's a little bit of a shame that it needs to be an all black cast to open the door to different, a variety of more variety for Black people on screen. But if it's a necessary step, that's what's been happening. When you look at Kenya Barris, Black as Fog, he's kind of he's a little bit of a pain. Sorry, pardon my French. I'm French. I love him though. If he watches that ever and he hates me, I'm gonna kill myself. But and I love that. I love that he represents himself like that. A little bit of a pain, and I want people to see that because it's opening the door for characters to be like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's just been so good talking to you. If you can plug a film one more time before we end, what's your film called again?
Rise.
Okay, brilliant. I will have a link to that in the description box. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to watching Rantbox TV, every Friday before 12:30 noon, there will be another video where we will talk about stuff where, it's normally quite nuanced stuff that you maybe are trying to talk about in a Facebook thread, and it got maybe a little bit complicated or hijacked by someone that you used to know in some other lifestyle, and they just don't seem to want to have a moderated discussion. This is why I make these videos. Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely day.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.